When I turned 65, mornings stopped feeling like mornings. They felt like battles. Before my eyes even opened, I could already feel it, that deep, familiar ache creeping through my knees, my shoulders, my hands. It was as if my body had turned into a collection of rusty hinges, each movement scraping, groaning, begging for mercy. I used to jump out of bed ready to take on the day. Now, I sat there on the edge of my mattress, waiting, just waiting for the pain to calm down enough to move. Some mornings I'd stare at my slippers for a full minute, as if putting them on would somehow unlock the younger version of me. My wife, Ellen, noticed it first. She'd say, "Richard, you're walking slower every week." And I'd laugh it off, pretending it was nothing. "Just a little stiffness," I'd say. "Comes with the territory." But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The pain wasn't sharp. It was steady, dull, constant, like a background noise I couldn't turn off. Every step reminded me of my age. Every stretch felt like a negotiation between my body and gravity. I told myself I was just getting old, but part of me refused to believe that this was how life was supposed to feel. One morning, I bent down to tie my shoes and froze halfway there. My knees locked, my back tensed up, my fingers didn't seem to want to bend. I stayed there for a moment, stuck between movement and surrender. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just stiffness. This was my body crying out for help. I started avoiding stairs. Then I started avoiding walks. Then one day, Ellen asked if I wanted to dance in the living room like we used to, and I said no. That no broke something inside me. I realized the pain wasn't just in my joints, it was in my spirit too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering how a man who once ran marathons could now barely make it to the kitchen without limping. How did it happen so fast? Was it arthritis, inflammation, or just time? The next morning, Ellen handed me a mug of coffee and said softly, "You should see Dr. Collins." I didn't argue. For once, I didn't have the energy to pretend everything was fine. That single decision, that quiet morning when I finally said yes, ended up changing everything. Because what Dr. Collins told me wasn't what I expected at all. It wasn't about age or arthritis or painkillers. It was about movement, about how I'd forgotten to listen to the language of my own body, and how 5 simple minutes a day could rebuild what I thought I'd lost forever. But at that time, I didn't believe him. Not yet. I was too tired, too skeptical, too used to hurting. I had no idea those next 5 minutes would change my mornings and my life forever.
The waiting room was quiet, except for the faint hum of a television showing the morning news. I sat there with my knees throbbing, rubbing my hands together just to feel some relief. When the nurse called my name, I stood up slowly, the kind of slow that tells you've been hurting for a long time. Dr. Collins greeted me with a warm smile. He'd been my physician for nearly 20 years, seen me through high blood pressure, back pain, and even my retirement blues. But this time, his expression softened the moment he saw me walk in. "You're moving differently, Richard," he said. "Tell me what's been going on." I told him everything: the stiffness, the mornings that hurt, the long nights of tossing and turning. He listened quietly, occasionally jotting down notes. Then he asked something I didn't expect. "Do you stretch?" I laughed. "Stretch? Doc, I can barely bend." He smiled. "That's exactly why I'm asking."
The first week felt strange. Every morning I stood beside my bed, yawning, stretching, moving slowly through those 5 steps Dr. Collins gave me. At first, it felt almost pointless, like whispering to a body that had stopped listening years ago. But then, on the 5th morning, something shifted. As I rolled my shoulders, I felt a warmth spreading across my back. Not pain, but flow. It was as if someone had turned on the circulation switch again. I finished the ritual, sat down, and realized I could stand back up without wincing. That had not happened in months. Ellen noticed it too. She was pouring coffee when I walked into the kitchen and said, "You're moving differently today." I smiled, a little proud. Maybe Dr. Collins was right after all. She chuckled, "Well, maybe you should listen to him more often." By the second week, I started adding music, slow jazz, something to keep the rhythm. Each movement began to feel more natural, like I was greasing the hinges of an old door that finally opened without squeaking. The stiffness was still there, but now it loosened faster each morning. And for the first time, I started looking forward to the ritual, not as an obligation, but as a quiet conversation with myself. It wasn't just physical anymore. Something inside me began to lift. The fog, the frustration, the sense of growing old too fast. I found myself walking out to the porch again in the mornings, watching the sunrise instead of sleeping through it. My appetite came back, my laughter too. One morning, while trimming the hedges, I caught a glimpse of myself in the window reflection. My back was straighter. My steps were lighter. My face looked more alive. And I thought, maybe aging doesn't have to mean stopping. It just means learning a new rhythm. A few days later, I had a follow-up appointment with Dr. Collins. He smiled the moment I walked in. "Well, look who's walking tall again." I laughed. "You were right. I thought 5 minutes was too small to matter." He nodded. "That's the thing about the body, Richard. It remembers small acts of care. They echo." He checked my mobility, asked how I was sleeping, how I was eating. "Better," I told him. "All of it. My mornings don't hurt as much anymore. I even took a short walk yesterday, down to the park." He smiled. "That's more powerful than any pill I could give you." That night, I sat beside Ellen, both of us sipping tea and watching the rain slide down the window. I said softly, "You know, I think I understand now. It wasn't my body that gave up. It was me." She reached over, squeezed my hand. "And now you're remembering how to live again." I smiled. "One morning at a time." Weeks turned into months, and the 5-minute ritual became as natural as brushing my teeth. It wasn't about stretching anymore. It was about presence. Those few minutes of movement reminded me that life doesn't slow down because of age. It slows down because we forget to move with it. And every morning, as I moved through the motions, neck, shoulders, knees, breath, I whispered a quiet thank you. Not to Dr. Collins, not to any medicine, but to my body, for forgiving me and choosing to heal anyway. That's when I realized sometimes the most powerful cure isn't found in a bottle or a pill. Sometimes it's found in the simple act of remembering that you are still alive and moving like it.
It's been almost a year since I started that 5-minute ritual. Some days my knees still ache a little, and my back reminds me that I'm not 30 anymore. But the difference now is I move anyway, because I finally understand that motion isn't just about flexibility, it's about freedom. When I look back at those mornings, waking up stiff, defeated, tired before the day began, I realized it wasn't pain that scared me most. It was the thought that my best days were behind me, that I was becoming invisible in my own life. But somewhere between those small movements, those deep breaths, and those quiet moments of care, something shifted inside me. I started believing that healing doesn't mean going back.
It means moving forward differently, with patience, with awareness, with gratitude. I remember asking Dr. Collins during one of my last visits, why does something so simple work so well? He smiled and said, because the body listens when you talk to it gently. That sentence has stayed with me ever since. Now, every morning, before the world wakes up, I stand by that same window. I stretch, I breathe, I let the first light of dawn touch my face, and I whisper to myself, you're still here. You're still moving. Ellen sometimes joins me now. We laugh through the stretches, tease each other when our balance wobbles. It's become our little ritual, a way to begin each day, not with age, but with intention. And somehow that makes every sunrise feel like a new beginning. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that the body doesn't quit. We just stop listening to it. We drown it in noise, in pills, in excuses. But when you give it time, when you honor it with movement and care, it responds. It forgives. It heals. So, if you're listening to this and you're over 60 and every morning feels heavier than the last, start small. 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Because sometimes the smallest steps lead you back to the life you thought you'd lost. And remember, aging isn't the end of strength. It's the beginning of wisdom. And the body, even at 60, 70, or 80 years old, is still capable of miracles if you give it a chance. My name is Richard, and every morning I still move. Because life doesn't stop when your joints ache. It stops when you do. And I'm not stopping anytime soon. This is not just a story about pain. It's a story about rediscovery, about learning to meet each sunrise with movement, hope, and gratitude.